Recording has started.
Hey, how we doing?
6:04, we're starting policy committee. I'm glad you're back. It's been a while. Alright, so we have the survey results on the search and seizure, which, oops, that's not what I wanted.
Very not.
Yeah.
And it seems all
I
good
was looking
for the
at
most
it.
part.
Yeah. Agree. I support the draft policy. Was wondering why the breathalyzer was not added in. Yes, the way it is, parents to be notified prior to search of vehicle to give consent. I was walking through it in my head. I wish the policeman was here, but I think if there's a probable cause or reasonable suspicion, we don't have to call the parent first.
What do you guys typically do?
We have called or tried to call, they haven't said that they have to be there or we're gonna do this, to let you know
Okay.
this is what we got going on.
Okay, so it's informatory. It's you
yes,
just giving them
yeah,
information.
yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you do, Dustin?
Yeah, my very first year, we called a parent one time prior to,
Okay.
and they came up and said, "You're not searching my car. I'm coming up there." And I'm 99.9% sure there was something that wasn't supposed to be in there. They went up and grabbed the car, took it off, and avoided it.
Okay.
And then we looked at the policy, and it says that you don't need to get prior consent, our old policy.
Right.
And so we always, anytime we do search a car, we always afterwards inform the parents that their car was searched. We have probable cause. A lot of times they'll ask,
Yeah,
well, why-
reasonable suspicion.
Okay.
Reasonable suspicion.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, to answer your question, we do not call parents now prior to searching the car.
Okay. Okay. Well, because I was walking through it from the head of a police officer, and I think if they pull a kiddo over for like speeding or whatever, and then they have probable cause, they're not
Mhm.
calling the parents.
Right.
No.
To say.
Well, and we have, I feel like maybe it was at Lakeland High School, I think it was last year or the year before. I mean, we've had situations where we're pretty sure, I mean, you can visibly see guns and so it's like, we're not waiting. We're
Right.
getting not
100%.
taking it,
Right.
there become safety issues and so, but we always notify them after the
Mhm.
fact.
So these were all parents with the exception of one community member. Cool. Policy looks good.
That's awesome.
All right, so that can move forward.
The board,
Yes, for approval.
do you want it added to, you haven't posted yet, have you? Do you want it added to the
Yes.
19th?
Go ahead. Or is that, yeah, that's next week's, right? Yeah. Just say next week, because I won't remember. All right, so now we're moving on to acquisition, use, and disposal of school
And
property.
Jessica is here.
Okay. So, where did we end? We ended
Right
there. Okay, except we had alright. Conveyance of property. Within 1 year prior to conveyance, all real and personal property with an estimated value of 1,000 or greater shall be appraised, and the appraisal shall be presented at a regular board meeting. All appraisals shall be retained by the district indefinitely. Is that accurate, Jessica? Do we hold on to appraisals indefinitely?
I mean, they become part of the board packet as part of the action item, so in theory, indefinitely, yes. As long as we're maintaining the board minutes and the materials.
Okay, I just know that we've been in situations where people have wanted to abolish all paper.
Yeah.
And then if...
So, since I've been here, yes, we've maintained copies of all the
But
appraisals.
we don't do a separate archive.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Okay, I do know that we have a list, policy thing that says by code how long we're supposed to retain something. So,
We could change that to retained by the district according to the records retention schedule.
okay, that would be good.
That way we defer to the other policies. Yeah.
Quite a commitment.
Yeah, it does.
It's a long time.
It is.
Do you know what number that is and we can't look it up? Can you look it up? Thank you.
Jessica, do you know it off the top of your head?
No, I do not.
So then we stopped. Have you had a chance to read through anything we did?
Yes, I did. The only question I have is the $25,000 mark. Most other districts in the state have it at $50,000 for personal property. So I just didn't know if we wanted to look at that.
That's what was in there before, the
Yeah.
25.
Right.
Most other districts, especially surrounding us, have $50,000 as their threshold. So I didn't know if we wanted to consider that. I'm fine with 25 too. I just wanted to throw that out there. 25,000 doesn't go very far anymore.
8,600 is records management.
Okay. Is it down here? No.
Is that the title of it, is records management?
That's records management. Okay.
Or, sorry, there's one here, 8605 that says retention of district records.
That's the one.
Okay.
So 8605?
Yes.
Because if you open it up, it should be a like spreadsheet.
Neither, oh, yeah, over here. Scroll down.
Retention of.
District records.
Was there a conflict when we looked? Because I asked you about, because the van issue, was that under another policy where it says 50,000?
Yes.
Okay.
I can tell you which policy it is. Give me just a moment.
Yeah, we found it at the very end,
We
the
did.
policy, it's in the 8,000s, I thought.
It's under finances. 1 second.
Or
I
is
think
that-
it's 8,400.
I can't look it up, so sorry.
Nope.
No.
It's 82. Nope. 81.
We found it at the very end.
997. There we go. 7,400.
It's the procurement one, I think it's.
Miscellaneous procurement standard,
Yeah.
7,400.
Yeah. Right, remember, and we said it has all the Ps attached to it.
Right.
Yeah, it's right there.
So the authorization and control is where it designates that purchases where the aggregate total of the requisition is between 25,000 and 50,000. The superintendent or designee will report the purchase to the board as an information item at the next regular board meeting. And this is in line with Idaho code.
Yeah, we
all
found
of
this
the
last time,
mhm.
but
all of the thresholds.
I was
with
like,
that.
Jessica will be able to tell you this off the top of her head.
Mhm.
I have to look for it.
There's a million
'Cause
references in this
I
one.
stay out of the 70s or the 7,000s.
If we want it to be similar to 67 to 2806, which is also kind of mentioned in this one, the legal reference.
I don't have that listed on any of them.
So
We have
67
2805 and 28, over on this one it was, 2801.
So 2806 is specific to procuring services or personal property by political subdivisions, which is
Okay.
what we're considered. So that would be a great reference for this. In that it gives us, when you're referencing that policy, you can, per Idaho code,
Wow.
it gives you up to $75,000 instead of 50. So,
Okay.
and we have it at 25. So
Mhm.
Idaho code says 75. We have it at 25. Local districts have it at 50.
Okay, well, I think what we should do then, when we bring this to the board, we need to bring the other policy, because I think there needs to be consistency, with what we're
So bring
stating.
7,400.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we
'Cause I
changing
think
the
that
thresholds
one
in 7,400?
was, excuse me?
Are we changing the thresholds in 7,400?
I don't know. That's where, because the, this one says one thing, the other policy says
Right.
something else, which,
So we should have done them in tandem, I think.
That's what she's suggesting.
right. This one, I think, was one, okay, so this was just reviewed on
Mhm.
November
Mhm.
13th, 2024. I just know that there is some, bumping it just to 50,000. It's been 25,000, which I think is why there was a little bit, of confusion when you brought the van, just as a courtesy, hey, letting you know we're doing this. So, we need to have consistency in the two policies, at least in my opinion. So if it's going to be 50,000, then this should be mirroring what 7,400 is. If it's gonna remain at 25,000, then we need to correct 7,400 to
So
parallel
do we
with
wanna
this.
just highlight that, and when we, take this to the board,
Mhm.
we'll bring both of them, cause the other one, you're just changing that value.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you continue on for bids and contracts, and this is where it kind of mirrors what, 672806 states for the Idaho State Code. When we get down in here and it says if the district exceeds 75,000, and does not exceed 150,000, that's in line with the Idaho Code regarding procurement of personal property.
Right, but I also know the board has the ability to modify as long as it's not going against what the law says. So if they give you a 50,000 threshold and we wanna bring that down, we're within the right to do that. If we wanna go, if we don't wanna adhere to 50 and we wanna say, no, we'll give you free liberty up to 75, up to 75, we would get in trouble for that. So that's why I'm just saying-
I completely understand that, but the reason we brought 7,400 in November was because how low the limits were before with inflation and everything that's going on, it was hindering the purchasing process.
Okay, so then I think it would be better, I'm just not gonna make the change. So the board can have all that information and say, yes, raise it to 50,000 to mirror that one, or no, we wanna keep it at 25, which it has been, and let's correct 7,400. So,
So let's just work through this one and we'll bring them both at the same time, and just that one little part.
right.
And we can talk about why we made the change.
Which I think would be beneficial. So we stopped here, donated real property. If real property was donated to the district, the board may, within a period of 1 year from the time of the appraisal, sell the property without additional advertising or bidding. The board must have new appraisals made and publish notice for bids as before. What? So,
I feel like we cut something like that.
well, the property was a period of 1 year from the time of the appraisal, sell the property. Must have new appraisals and gain published notice for bids. Wouldn't it be if it's gone beyond the 1 year threshold? Is that what it's?
Yeah, that would make sense. If it hits the 366 mark.
Right. Is that your understanding, Jessica? Exchange of property. The board may exchange real or personal property for other property provided that one half plus one of the members of the full board votes and a resolution is duly adopted authorizing such exchange of real and or personal property and determining such transfer to conveyance or conveyance to what was this? Okay.
I think at one point we didn't have things crossed out and then we did.
Yeah, I'm not sure who did this or what. So, exchange real or personal property for other property, provided that one half plus one of the members of the full board votes and a resolution is duly adopted, authorizing an exchange of real and or personal property and determining the transfer or conveyance to, U.S. government, city, county, state, hospital district, cooperative service agency, other school districts, Idaho Housing and Finance Association, public charter school, library district, community college district, or recreation district. Okay. Prior to any transfer or conveyance of any real or personal property as set forth above, the board shall have the property appraised by an appraiser certified in the state of Idaho, which appraisal shall be entered in the records of the board and shall be used to establish the value of the real or personal property. Haven't we already said this?
I feel like you have. This is redundant. It's all up there.
Okay. Provided, however, if the board finds it in the district's best interest to trade personal property to a person or entity for like kind personal property, the board may vote to elect to do so. The board may elect to abstain from an appraisal of the personal property if the estimated value of such property is less than $5,000. Well, not according to what we say up above. It's $1,000.
I say you strike through it all.
Because I think this is specific to exchanging property. Is that sufficient?
I think so, but what's real or what's
Real is land, personal is everything that's not
You can't just say land.
Well, the
Well,
we're
it's
just
saying
talking
real
about-
or personal property. It says,
I mean, I get what, I just don't, it's weird. I feel like the average everyday Joe is gonna be reading that going, what does that mean?
and I get you, I do get you, but
So-
there's no other way to,
I know, but I just, it is what it is, it's fine. But people are gonna go, what's real? What do they mean?
There's publication guidelines related to the transfer of property. I don't know if we wanna note them in here, but it's Idaho Code 672323. That requires us, if the value of the land or the personal property is over $10,000, we just have to post it in the paper twice, and have a written agreement between the two entities.
The fact that you know that off the top of your head is insane in remembering.
Well, so like for the county recorder's office, that's
Right.
how they.
I get it, I know that, but I just feel like, you know, the normal person is thinking, what?
Okay, so in summarizing this long-worded,
I think what you have is fine.
so exchange of any real or personal property shall adhere to the appraisal requirements listed above.
Yep.
Okay, so we're not restating it. Equipment acquired under a federal award. When it is determined that original or replacement equipment as defined in policy 72-7, who did that? Do we have a policy 72-70?
Yes.
Property records.
Okay. Okay,
Jessica's that title property records on the website,
Mhm.
okay.
okay.
It's basically our inventory process.
Mhm.
Property records.
Thank you.
The wording in this I would leave pretty much as is, as the blue has stated, just because it is related to a federal award and there is a lot of strings attached with federal awards. There's not much here that I would recommend wordsmithing because it follows most of our grant guidance that we receive when we receive awards for capital expenditures.
Okay, so when it is determined that original or replacement equipment as defined in policy 7270 acquired under a federal award is no longer needed for the original project or program or for other activities currently or previously supported by a federal awarding agency, the superintendent or chief financial officer will contact the awarding agency or pass through for a state administered grant for disposition instructions.
That's what we, standard process.
Yep. Generally, disposition of equipment is dependent on its fair market value at the time of disposition. If the item has a current fair market value of $5,000 or less, it may be retained, sold, or otherwise disposed of with no further obligation to the federal awarding agency. If the item has a current fair market value of more than $5,000, the federal awarding agency is entitled to the federal share of the current market value or sales proceeds. If acquiring replacement equipment, the district may use the equipment to be replaced as a trade-in or sell a property or use the proceeds to offset the cost of the replacement property. The district will use whatever means available to ensure the highest possible return on any item sold. Capital expenditures for special purpose equipment are allowable as direct costs, provided that items with a unit cost of $5,000 or more have the prior written approval of the federal awarding agency or pass-through entity. Therefore, the district should request prior approval from the State Department of Education for the purchase or the disposition of equipment purchased with federal funds that have a value of $5,000 or more.
That's our standard operating procedure for anything purchased with grant funds.
That's redundant.
It is very redundant, but
Okay. So beyond that,
Do you feel like this one needs to go out for survey? Or do we just take both of these to the board?
well, we're not, any that are financial related, we don't send out for survey. We just send them to the board.
Right.
So with this though, I do think this needs to go with
The
7,400 to the board.
can I respectfully request that comes at the March 5th meeting, since I will not be at the the February 19th meeting.
Well, this policy was already brought before the board, but it was asked to come back and be wordsmithed because it hadn't been gone through. So,
Just like to be there for the conversation regarding the dollar amounts.
okay. How many policies do we have for this board meeting?
So far, just 30.
Just the one.
You said one.
You don't think that Lynn can convey what it is that needs to be conveyed?
I'm positive she could. I just,
Okay.
as part of my role as chief finance officer, would like to be present for conversations that impact purchasing thresholds.
Well, let's go ahead and bring it, and if it's not clear to the board, then we can table it. It's not, I don't see that as being a huge ordeal.
So which meeting are we bringing it? 749, we're gonna bring 7400
Right.
together with 90.
Right,
Which one are we bringing it to?
to the next meeting. Because I mean, I don't remember when this one was brought, but it's been sitting for a while.
November was the last
So
one.
Was
it's
it?
been a couple of months.
Yeah. Okay. School-sponsored student activities.
So this was the one, we wanted to, so at the very bottom, we wanted to add the language around the breathalyzer. We just
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to, so I looked at several different districts and nobody has like a policy that I could find, but I just added this language, and if we wanna wordsmith that, but it's kinda short and sweet.
Sweet, let's just wordsmith it real quick and call it good. Okay. Have to do that. Drives me nuts. I can't stand Times New Roman. It's a pet peeve. All right, school-sponsored student activities. Student organizations. All student organizations must be approved by the administration. Secret or clandestine organizations or groups will not be permitted. Why do we have to say that?
How would you know about them?
I
Well-
think we strike through that. That's
Okay, but the thing is when we're talking about student organizations, is that student clubs? Because those all have a process that they have to go through.
Right. But this could be, I mean, it could be a co-curricular, like PTA, it could be, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a club.
Oh, this
Well,
is
that's what I'm
specifically to
asking.
school-sponsored student
Mhm.
activities.
Which
what?
all
It's not-
clubs are school-sponsored.
Right. But we have stuff that, I mean, BTA is not a club in
No,
every
but
single
it,
building, you know what I mean?
But it would be a school-sponsored
Right.
student activity.
Right, that's why I'm just
Okay.
saying it's not club specific,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. Bylaws and rules of student organizations must not be contrary to board policy or to administrative rules and regulations. And I guess okay. Because okay. Procedures in student organizations must follow generally accepted democratic practices in the acceptance of members and nominations and election of officers. Okay. Social events. Social events must have prior approval of the administration. Social events must be held in school facilities unless approved by the board.
So that's a question I have
We-
is, do you, like for prom, we always bring it to you, do you feel like you need to provide approval of that if the administration is, like the location?
I don't know.
I think it's because of that, so I guess that's my question is, I mean, is that a necessity for you guys? Cause if the principals are okay with whatever cause the kids are fundraising, it's not,
I know, and I can't speak for Dustin, But I don't even know, and Shannon can correct me if I'm wrong, if the students have come up with a site yet.
They have,
Well,
yeah,
there you go.
it's on the agenda.
Oh, it is, so that would be my only concern,
It
if
funnels through
students,
leadership.
where is it gonna be, tell me not the resort.
Well, okay, we'll tell you.
Are you doing yours at the resort? Oh, you're at the golf course.
We can't afford that.
Oh, but you go to the golf course that's cheaper?
We went to Templin's 2 years ago. Last year we did the Coeur d'Alene Inn, and I believe that's where we're going again this
Oh,
year.
how was that?
'Cause it's cheap.
I wouldn't mind doing that.
2 years before that, we went to the cheapest one we did was out at the fairgrounds.
I love the
That
fairgrounds.
was, I like that one. It was
Yeah.
the safest one.
Yep,
You
I
guys are being
agree.
recorded, I'm just reminding you.
Oh,
We're not big time.
And we don't have to change this practice, I just thought I'd bring it up when. 'cause
In all
we-
fairness, it just comes to us, I don't know why.
Well, I think it's because of
So-
that policy, it says that if it's not held at the school, it would come in front of you, so I just.
Well, it's not citing any statute.
I think it's just something that they've always done.
I feel like
Supervisor.
if we've ever felt like it was even questioned, we would get a hold of our superintendent, if it was ever
Right.
something that, like, oh, we don't quite know the answer to this.
yeah, a couple of years ago, they wanted to do it in a barn up by Sandpoint, and that was a no.
Right, yeah, because of the travel. Well, and at one point, didn't you have a group that wanted to do it in Spokane?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought they wanted to do it at your house one time. I heard
that's
they
a
heard
no
you
as
throw
well.
it right down.
The garage.
Let's
turn
start
off
the
the
garage
lights
band.
when you leave, I'm going to bed.
So to supervise and regulate, including by contract with established entities, those extracurricular activities that are by definition outside of or in addition to the regular academic courses or curriculum of a public school, and which extracurricular activities shall not be considered to be a property, liberty, or contract right of any student, and such extracurricular activities shall not be deemed a necessary element of a public school education, but shall be considered to be a privilege. So, right here is saying that the board has to approve it. But I don't know why we've not ever cited this. So it's 33512, and I think it's this one.
12?
Yeah.
Did it say there that the board had to supervise the dance?
Ooh, I think it did.
It says to supervise and regulate, including by contract. So by supervision, that could be a delegation to administration saying, please show up and monitor
Fun.
these
Good time.
lovelies in their nines and,
Josh loves prom.
Yeah, it's his
Favorite time of year.
He dresses up.
This is not 12, lovely.
I think of the next one, you should have a karaoke machine.
You could roll up in the middle. That might make it more fun. There's a hot pink one across the street.
Sorry, Josh. We love you. I'm just envisioning him with a karaoke.
Okay, what would the song be? What would the song be?
Lukenbach, Texas. We could fire that up right now in the corner if you want.
Michelle's the only person on task.
No, I'm just,
Now we're all just singing that song in our head.
While she's trying to find this, do you want to sing? I needed a laugh.
Does it just insert it? Oh, yeah. Okay. I suppose we should put a little space there. All right. But I am going to highlight this because I think maybe the whole board can weigh in. That's my interpretation of that paragraph 12.
I don't think it's a big deal. I
But-
just know that sometimes you're like, why do we approve these things? So
I ask that a lot.
I just said, well,
Social events must be chaperoned at all times. Attendance at high school social events and dances shall be limited to high school students, and middle school social events shall be limited to middle school students unless prior permission is received from the principal.
I think that's a big one. So you can control.
I'm putting building administration because we seem to bounce back and
Yeah.
forth with that, and the high schools have more, I mean, we had a principal, but we also have other administrators. Extracurricular activities. Academic and behavior eligibility rules are established by Idaho High School Activities Association rules and district policy. Any student convicted of a criminal offense may, at the discretion of school officials, become ineligible for such a period of time as the school officials may decide. In establishing an interscholastic program, the board directs the administration to open all sports to all students enrolled in the district with an equal opportunity for participation. Recommend sports activities based on interest inventories completed by the students. All right. To ensure a safe environment, the school department reserves the right to administer breathalyzer tests conducted by school administration or their designee to students on school property or while attending school-sponsored events and or extracurricular school events to ensure the safety of students. Students who refuse a random breathalyzer test will be denied admittance to the extracurricular school event, and their parents will be notified.
One
Okay.
question I have is the random.
Yep. Can we get rid of that?
Yeah, I just copy and pasted it. I didn't wordsmith this at all.
So let's do,
Is that what you were thinking, Josh, if we got rid of the random part?
Yeah.
Because you're doing every single,
Yeah.
yeah. I think you could label it breathalyzer, don't you think? Or admittance, or upon entry, or.
in all fairness, that's what it is.
I like that. I was gonna say something about something with privilege that,
Yeah, this is not a right,
Yeah.
this is a.
And I think we need to specify that. It's just so foreign. Okay, this needs to be better formatted. Try minutes.
She's fancy.
No, she just can't stand the way the formatting is, and I can't see things because it's not working. All right.
Yes.
It's gotta get prior,
But it's a policy.
says it,
A policy or just building.
I think. It says it up there, it says that you must be a student unless given prior permission by building administration. I think it's towards the top.
Mm-hmm.
Guidelines on what permission,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe around 21.
You guys are allowed 24, is that you said 24-year-olds?
Would you calm down?
You guys just do the form, right?
Mm-hmm. A lot of homeschool. That's majority of ours are.
To ensure.
I gotta kick it out of the, yeah, I had one homeschool last time. It says building administrator, and I'm like, well, who's that? Well, I guess that sounds like it's your mama. Or the person's mama, your date's mama.
You're up to 8.5.
Shannon.
Just 3.
Hey Shannon, the other Shannon was here last week too, right?
Right.
So that's it. That was it, right? Me? Did Mary show up?
Mm-hmm.
No, it was just the.
It was just us.
Yeah, it was the 5 of us.
Thank you. You couldn't get the video.
because I know I couldn't do it, but you guys tried to paddle.
He was working on his karaoke.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Mhm. What are you doing? Yeah, I guess sugar.
That's not a lot of L. That is not a lot of L. Let's see. There's no Q. Today's the available. I've done a few. I'm not good at it, but it's fun. I like realizing you haven't done that yet.
Select spirit games.
We're gonna call them activities.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Hurry? Nope. Nope, can't be hurry. Birthday. Hurrah. Hurry. Why can't it be hurry? Obey.
Requirement at all school dances and select school spirit spirit.
I do like just some narrative about if they refuse it, you know.
Oh, right, I'm trying to figure out how to,
Take off the rest of it.
so students who refuse a breathalyzer test will be denied admittance to the extracurricular school event. Purpose of now, or, okay. So, let's see here.
If it's that, I'm gonna be upset.
Here's my question. Right now, we're doing school dances and school spirited events that are specific to Battle for the Paddle. But if there's not necessarily opportunity, but if there's an expectation that this should be growing, do we want to limit the language to say that this is the only time we're gonna be using it?
I wouldn't wanna limit
Okay.
that.
Alright.
I mean,
So how do you encompass?
Is there a requirement?
Well, don't you have it there? I mean, school spirit, activities is pretty broad.
Well, but down here, we're saying extracurricular school events, and here it's school-sponsored activities. So what I'm just wanting is, because here we've got school, student organizations, social events, and extracurricular activities. So, school dances.
I gotcha.
I just wanna, if,
Have the language be consistent.
yes,
Mhm.
please.
So could you just list those 3 titles? And like, cause dances would fall under one of them.
Correct, but then I'm concerned by saying is a requirement at all events, because
Right.
there are events, I mean, like, we're not doing it at the Friday night football games.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Or
that
like,
would
I mean,
cause
school
lines to be.
spirit activity, that could be a pep rally, that could be.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, how can we word this so that it is subject to the event, but not required for everything unless we decide that it's required at everything.
I mean, I do feel like you're saying dances and you do say select school spirit activities. I mean, it says select.
Could it be
so-
breathalyzer tests as a requirement at all school dances and may be utilized at select school spirit activities?
I feel like you're limiting yourself a little bit. And I can't remember, I don't know if we breathalyze at every dance. I think we have a random Battle for the Paddle fundraiser dance that
Well, you
30 kids show up
Well,
and
the
we
middle
don't.
school doesn't have breathalyzers, so when we have
Oh.
our evening dances, we don't breathalyze. And
I
I
always-
talked about potentially borrowing them, but then we thought parents at the middle school might, are just more engaged than high school parents sometimes, so. But if it was in policy, you know,
I mean, I
It's a bad
appreciate
idea.
that Michelle's trying to not lockstep us into something, but,
Mm-hmm.
this might be a requirement. Yeah, I like that.
Maybe a requirement, maybe it's perfect.
yeah.
Okay, so if we. So if we say breathalyzer testing may be a requirement at any school, organization, event, or activity, any social event, or any extracurricular activity, students who refuse it will be denied admittance if it's a thing. So,
And then we can take
Does-
up all that other stuff.
okay,
So 3410 will go out for survey.
yes, please. Might be interesting to see what comes of it.
Yeah, for sure.
You're doing what?
Well, I think the fact that,
Well-
somebody asked for it in the search and seizure, so people know it's coming, and that was apparent, so.
Right, but putting it where it is
I
appropriate.
think this is more appropriate,
Mhm.
cause
Yeah.
this is what it encompasses, so.
Yeah.
Would I do school organization? Did we, in that policy, cause I think someone, I don't know if it was Josh, but like, there was the conversation that sometimes if a kiddo comes to school and smells quite ripe, just
Mhm.
gonna do it, do we have that covered in that policy?
Well, no,
Mhm.
we talked about, either including it in the potential wand breathalyzer. The other place we talked about would be appropriate would be going back to our student discipline in the 3331, because we talk about being drug free, we talk about being tobacco free, we
Right.
talk about alcohol free, we
Right.
talk about gun free. So you could put, I mean, we even talked about not doing a separate wand
Okay, so
policy
maybe
and coming back to 3330 and
Okay.
adding all of that in there,
for
because
wanding and for
we felt like
breathalyzing.
this was for this one because it is every kid, but the rest of them are reasonable suspicion.
Right.
So in our conversation, we wanted in the search and seizure, you're just noting about wands, but we talked about, do you do a separate wand policy? So in the agenda, I did give some examples of what some other districts did, but last time, in my mind, it fits under 3330 because it literally talks about drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and weapons.
Right,
And so you could talk about wands with any of those scenarios, and then you could, because alcohol is addressed in 3330, you could talk about the breathalyzer, because we actually list, like, we even punitively what you would do. You could, instead of writing a separate policy, you could make that a little bit more, it's gonna be longer, and that policy's a long policy, but I don't know, but because last time we talked about really separating this because this
Correct.
is specific to all. And
My thing is I
the other
want to
one is
make
reasonable
sure,
suspicion,
right,
yeah.
that we are
Yep.
letting the world know
Exactly.
we do this.
Yep. But as far as reasonable suspicion, either we have a standalone policy or we do it in student discipline. That's the one that makes the
Okay.
most sense to me.
Right,
But-
okay.
Michelle, that sentence that you added, the breathalyzer testing, you are adding the social event and extracurricular activity because of the bullet points above the 1, 2, and 3. Okay.
Yeah, just consistent with what's in the policy.
I think that's
Okay.
smart, because they're just saying may, so then it just says, it could be.
It's at the discretion of the
Mhm.
principal.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And, yeah.
And I feel
So-
like you guys do a great job of communicating that to, the kids know
Mhm.
what they're walking into.
No, they know that.
And
Yeah.
then, is this one of the things, this is a policy that goes to the kids every year?
It's in the
Okay.
student handbook.
Alright. Okay.
So getting back to the point with the breathalyzer during the day,
Right,
I think we just
do we have we
we
just
don't.
have to add it to a 33?
Or so if we go back up to the agenda, so down here, there's examples of wands as a
Okay.
standalone, but if you go, do you mind pulling up, just our current, board policy 3330? You got the middle one, right, where you have policies in.
thank you.
You just do 30, I think it's 3330. Student discipline right there. So in here we talk about, we list everything.
Right,
We have all of that, so it literally covers everything, and then we go into what would happen, like, empowers the duties of the teacher. This is a long policy. If you go even further, it talks about potential, what our responses would be, it talks about suspension, talks about threats. It goes at the very bottom, there's gun free, it has everything. You could
Mhm.
literally put a paragraph about reasonable suspicion with a breathalyzer, you could put reasonable suspicion with a wand and
Mhm.
not have it be its own
okay.
if you wanted to, or we could do standalone.
I'd like it
so-
in there, cause we do go in more detail with the breathalyzer in the dances and the wands and the search and seizure, that you can just make mention that those are two things that we utilize.
Yeah,
or two
the reason why
resources
it
that
makes
we
sense to me, and that's just feedback, I sent it to the secondary team, specific to those three
Okay.
examples. I don't think anybody loves all three, we would have to pull a little bit from all of it. I didn't change anything from those. But, what I liked about putting it in 3330 is, you could wand, it's from a gun situation, from a knife, like it encompasses all of that. So, and some of these feel way more procedural.
Right, which that's not what the policy is for.
Mhm.
The policy is just saying,
But these are
this
just
is
the
what we
only
do, and
examples I
then
could find
administration creates.
as a standalone,
procedure.
so.
This one or the third one goes into examples throughout, this one. Several.
And see, this, I think, is part of what we need to create to go along with the crisis plan,
Mhm, exactly.
but I don't think it's a
A
policy.
right.
But we do need to have some,
It needs to be part of that.
it does.
The final annual policy that we need to
Correct.
go over, and then we will have
Um,
gone through all of them. In time. Yeah.
Uh,
So this to me was just the place, but where we could really spend, because it lists, there's every scenario of disciplinary action.
So, specific to 6, 7, 8, I don't think wands pick up drugs, do they? I mean, not wands, breathalyzers.
Mhm.
Okay.
Then
So,
you have 10 with the weapon.
we could have a, just sort of a specific to, vaping, smoking, alcohol, all of that, you know, with the understanding that if there is suspect, then these are what we're going to do.
We have
and then
reasonable
we'll go from there.
suspicion.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah.
So yeah,
Do
we
you feel
could-
like it's better served in there? Because like we do have a tobacco policy and we have like I just feel like again when we first started this we did not want to have the same language in 5 different places.
Right.
This is the only one that encompasses all those scenarios so that's why.
I went ahead and linked it in on the agenda.
Oh, perfect, thank you. So if we wanted to edit this one, okay, thank you.
So this is saying when the grounds for disciplinary action are, which, okay, yeah, see, to me, the student discipline comes after the fact of you've been caught. So here's what's going to happen. That's where I guess I'm a little hung up.
But I think for them, they suspect it.
Right.
And then this is their action steps. It talks about like
Right.
if they wanted to suspend, if they, so if they suspect something, the student at that point is technically caught because then they're working through to confirm their suspicions.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, if a student, like a vape detector goes off and we think, I've wanted kids before that didn't have anything on them.
Right.
And I gave them discipline. I mean,
Yeah.
I had one where a parent came in. I asked the parent to come in and wand them because at that point I didn't know where we were with the wand, and she passed.
Yeah.
So, and I know I haven't been here.
No,
I don't
you're
want to
good.
I don't want to backtrack, but
No.
what's the drawback? What's the negative of putting the breathalyzer and the wand in the search and seizure
Because
portion?
when you're just randomly breathalyzing for a school dance, there is no reasonable or whatnot. It's just, we're just doing it as part of the procedure
Uh-huh.
to participate in the activity. It has nothing to do with suspicion. It has everything to do with just policy.
But I thought the random, or not the random, but just going through, that was in the policy we just put in the activities. That wasn't search and seizure.
Correct.
So why couldn't we put
We did put language in the search and seizure.
for the breathalyzer?
For
We
the
just
wand.
put for the wand, just kind of a generic.
Let's pull that policy up. I think I already did, didn't I?
Josh, what are your thoughts on that? Having something having something in the search and seizure portion?
I like it,
You exit out of it.
that just
Yeah.
that we may utilize it, and
Yeah.
that's that.
That's what it says right now. That's what we put in there.
But
but-
breathalyzer as well.
Yeah, I don't think.
Did this already go into public?
No.
This policy did.
Okay.
Searches and seizures did go out to the public.
Mhm.
But the reason we didn't put the breathalyzer in this is because this is specific to having reasonable suspicion. Going to a dance, are we telling our kids that we are reasonably suspicious
No.
that you're
Maybe
coming?
No,
to-
but-
But we had that
Separate uses of
covered.
the
Yeah,
breathalyzer,
but
right?
if the question is, can we put it in there so we can utilize it if the situation
If you have
presented
reasonable
itself?
Suspicion.
I feel like we
That's
put it
cool.
at the bottom, or maybe right there, where all the red was. If you go higher. Is it right there? No. No, that was just about lockers.
Right there.
Right there.
So this is under students.
So when we were talking
So-
about the breathalyzer,
Right.
Dustin, it was more through the lens of like from prom and all of that, so we didn't wanna muddy the waters, but we never talked about it through the lens of this other factor
Right,
could be.
of suspicion.
So could you
Yeah.
just add a paragraph underneath that about breathalyzer?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then would we need to do a wand policy, or would it just be, we could do the wand procedures through the emergency 8300 that like more procedural?
With
things?
respect to the wand, though, I think the ADSSs need to weigh in on what they think we need to have. As far as, because I know that with respect to the crisis plan,
Mhm.
we still have to incorporate policies. I mean, there's a lot of
Right.
cross-referencing that needs to occur that
Right,
hasn't.
right.
And the wanding was a big one.
Right, but
And-
that would make sense in 8300,
Mm-hmm.
and so not having a separate standalone with that, is that what you're saying?
I don't know what I'm saying.
So, okay, so in search and seizure, if we have this first paragraph talks about wanding, the second paragraph talks about breathalyzer, then we're addressing the reasonable suspicion situation. Then in 3410, we have the activity, so then we're addressing the breathalyzer at an all kid function kind of thing. Then specific to the ADSs and SROs, in our 8300 emergency protocols, we have all of the protocols, but we don't have matching policies for parents, and that's
Correct.
the piece that we need.
Right.
But we could have, because there's like 8300 procedure 1 through 10 or something, there's
Right.
10 different things. I mean, one of those could be the wand for the ADSs, and then for, again, we're just reiterating, maybe we're taking these paragraphs in the policy that
Mhm.
matches it or whatever.
Right.
So there isn't a standalone outside of 8300 is what I'm saying. It's not like we have 8300 and then we have a wand policy, like they're gonna be
Okay.
connected.
Okay.
Is that what you're thinking?
Sure,
Okay,
that would be fine.
okay. If you had you'd still do a physical search, right? That language would still
Would
be
you?
appropriate.
What do you mean by physical?
Yeah, that would,
I mean,
like what the wand's gonna take, it shouldn't be like some of the procedures in that example one, take all the stuff out of your pockets and we're gonna wand you.
Hmm?
okay. So basically, it's just, you're gonna use a
Suspicious
breathalyzer and
word.
then that's it, right? You're not doing anything else after that?
Well, if they ding, they'll be going home.
Right, but
So
I
if they
just.
have anything on 'em.
You
I mean,
would-
and we,
Yeah,
but
we
we,
would
but we
search
questioned, I mean, if
backpack.
they ding, okay, where'd you get, you know, but I don't
Just
feel
you
us
would
patting
not
them
be
down to look for a
checking
flask.
To see if there's a flask or anything.
We would search the backpack.
Yeah,
We would ask them to empty out his
That's-
pockets, we
Yeah.
would do a standard, but we ain't do no, I mean, we've never
I
done
guess
that.
that's what I meant by.
All physical search.
Physical
yeah.
search,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not touching them, but
Well,
just
after reading some of these policies, you know, these other schools,
Mhm.
like when you say physical search, some of these people get a little frisky.
When you said it's gonna be a body cavity.
Holy Makes
The
that.
gloves.
Is that right?
to think about.
Intoxicated or under the influence of alcohol.
I will say, most
It-
of the
it-
procedures that I've
They
done,
may mean the same thing.
most of them, 99% of them, I feel like, are inner city schools, and they're only
Well,
doing it when they
because
have
a
a strong
kiddo could
suspicion
come
or
in
something.
smelling of,
Yeah,
dangerous,
yeah.
dangerous,
you
and
know,
outward
mad
from
dog
that.
or something,
It flat out says on
and
some of them,
not
they
be
don't-
intoxicated,
Yes.
This
just
is not meant to
took
do
a
any
swig
drugs,
before they
any
walked in.
alcohol,
I
Yeah.
don't
or
know.
any
So-
vapes,
You had that
tobacco.
readily
This is
available.
100% weapons and only weapons.
It's on the tip of your tongue.
One book even said, like, if a
Okay, may utilize a breathalyzer in the event there is
drugs or
cause to believe that a
tobacco is
student is
found
under
during
the
a search,
influence
it'll
of
be completely separate from a weapon search.
alcohol.
Which I'm like, okay, I don't like that personally.
If you find it.
I'm glad you brought this up, Dustin, 'cause it makes sense to have
Is
right by
the
each other.
period just fine there? Like all the,
So what do we do if we breathalyze during the day and a student, we find out that, you know, they were hitting the salsa lunch?
yep,
What do we do?
so after the fact,
Mhm.
that
Do we
would
call
be
the
a,
parent?
call a parent,
Okay.
bring them in, and of course they'd be discipline attached.
But do we go into any of the details? If, you know, even in the search and seizure, like, if we go through the wand, we're not, in this policy, it doesn't seem like we're going through any of the consequences, we're not
Mhm.
explaining any of that.
This is just
No.
that they're, what a search and seizure entails
Uh-huh.
in the sense of your
We have the
protocols.
ability to,
3330 addresses the discipline side of that.
So some of the deeper details with the breathalyzer, if we're gonna go into more details with the wands, I feel like it would be whatever form, whatever place we put the details of the wands in.
It needs to be in 8300 with, we have one for breathalyzer and one for
Yeah.
wands, yeah, agreed.
Okay. So by adding this sentence, we need to submit back out for survey.
Okay. So 3370.
Because I think this is very impactful. I mean, I agree it needs to be here. I couldn't figure out how to put it on before, so I thought it needed to go somewhere else.
No.
See, you should not miss these meetings. You're too
And then the one question would be, again, the SROs. You believe that they have, or comfortable with me instructing Deputy Wheeler to do a breathalyzer on, you know, this student because we believe he's under the influence.
I would say he's a school resource
Okay.
officer. He's not a sheriff at that point.
Okay.
Now, maybe something causes him to take that hat off and put that sheriff hat on, which then changes the dynamics.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you say, hey, I need you to do this, and he's like, not comfortable,
Yeah.
well then I guess we need to revisit that and figure out what the problem is.
And I bring that up, not that we've ever had a communication, I'm just trying to.
I know that it wasn't
Roach.
Wheeler, okay,
Deputy
it was
Roach.
the newer one. Cause he seemed to believe that he didn't ever take that sheriff hat
Yeah.
off, but absolutely does the minute he becomes the SRO
Mhm.
at 8 o'clock or whenever
Mhm.
he shows up for work. So, and that's bound by the memo of understanding. But if for some reason there's a conflict the board's not aware of, that they can't abide by our policies, then we need to have that conversation and figure out how to remedy that.
Sure.
Well, and what we did talk about, and this is why we just haven't, because we have all these other policies. At one point, so one of the annual policies that is required by law for the board to review is 8300, so it's all of your emergency preparedness. So, but we don't want to do that publicly because it literally lists all the things, so it has to be an executive session.
30% back out for survey.
So I think in executive session, when we get to that, we should have the SROs and armed guards, or at least one here, so we can talk through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
A good one to have too there is their supervisor,
yeah,
I really like him.
Eric, yeah. Well, and I feel like we have a good relationship, or I feel like I do. I mean, he helped us with all of the full-scale reunification last year. He was super helpful.
And what you can do when you send this back out is just highlight the sentence and just put
I
it.
send it out.
Oh, you send it out. Well, then I guess you'll know what to do.
I'll highlight it.
Okay. So
I'll
then,
just give a narrative that this part changed.
Yes.
But I'm also sending out 3410, so, I mean,
Yes.
it's not just one going out, so that's.
right, because we definitely,
Yep.
okay, school privilege. Everyone good with that title, school privilege?
I like it.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So because that's not going to survey, or,
To the board.
3370 is going to survey, 3410, so all you have is 7400 and 9100 going to the
Mhm.
board. Do you just want to hold off on
We can
that
talk
one?
about that after.
Okay.
Okay. 70. Oh, here we go. So,
So I say we hold those off until we get to the emergency one.
okay, which
And then,
then we're down to attendance. We have 15 minutes.
and I feel like this was brought up because, so I think people are kind of confused
Okay.
with, so we have the enrollment numbers for the open enrollment, the out of district, that, because we don't have borders anymore, remember those numbers that Lisa has to post on the
Right.
website. And then we have class sizes, but then Lisa brought back to the board at one point to up those numbers. And so, the open enrollment numbers, so it doesn't match what we put here, is my understanding. Isn't that right?
Oh, I thought this was about truancy for elementary, because there is no clear definition for elementary about truancy.
it got brought up because of that. That's why it was.
Truancy. Yeah.
I thought it was because of the other.
I don't think there's numbers on here.
I thought they wanted all this brought up and start talking about, are we changing that? So, okay, well, then I'm wrong.
There was
Okay.
a challenge, or not necessarily a challenge about the policy, but
Okay.
there was a series of events where it just got brought up, so, and notice we hadn't reviewed it in a while, so.
Okay, and then, well, then I need to bring up the one that has the numbers in it, cause we changed that. I think it's 30-10 maybe then. It's
I'm
not 30-50.
questioning whether this is accurate. I think it was reviewed before then. Oh, here's the flow chart.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, 9 through 12, because the flow chart's specific to 9 through 12. It's not specific to elementary at all. And that seems to be where we have some struggles. So, it's just,
I believe the flow chart was just recently added, so wouldn't that amend the policy? I agree with you, I think we've discussed this.
I thought it was sooner than
Yeah,
2022,
yeah,
but
agreed.
I could be wrong.
Well, if you go to,
So it was, came up, or either came up or added in November, but we never got to it. Cause that's where you created the draft,
Are you doing any
So
of
I
that, or
think
is
we
that
meant to.
the Shannon thing?
but it just, we just hadn't gotten to it yet because
Maybe
there
we'll
were
make it a
other
Shannon thing.
Everything's a crisis.
policies that.
Well,
What is
I'm
it's
my?
gonna
kind of
look
concerning,
at
but it
policy
just seems
here.
like,
You don't got anything else going on?
I think we have stuck ahead with about yay big.
Oh.
What happened here?
Must be
I think
weird.
there was
Okay.
one. Well, usually they end up going to Mountain View,
Attendance
Mountain View online
policy.
before they become
Students
a.
are required to attend all classes, all assigned classes each day, and teachers shall keep a record of all absences and tardiness. Students must be in attendance 90% of the time in classes in session. See flow chart at the end of policy for consequences of absenteeism. No credit will be granted to students missing more than 9 days per semester. Students in secondary school shall be required to register for their classes, which may include one scheduled supervised study hall. When a student is absent and the school, okay, so when we're saying no credit will be granted,
And there's no credit at elementary.
right, so what is the consequence? I mean, what
I
is?
mean, we send out the same letters and then we start typically at, the 6th absence, the 9, you know, there's 3 letters. I think the last one is maybe 11 or 12. Can't remember, that number's changed, over the course of the last several years, but, and you're really just trying to work with families to figure out what's the obstacle, why are they not coming. Sometimes it's the kids are legitimately sick, and so then, you know, if there is a chronic situation, like do we need to support you with a 504? I mean, you're really trying to come alongside, but we definitely have, and it's a small fraction, but we have families that, we have kindergartners that miss 50 days of school. And so, but compulsory attendance, you can't do anything about it because it's not until 1st grade, they have to be 7. And so you can't bring them to the board for that. So they're just feeling like you have, and the parents will call in and say, I'm sick, but it's every Monday, every Friday, you know, and so we're so past, for a lot of the ones that the principals would actually bring to you for habitual truancy, they're so past the 9-day mark. And but they have all come along trying to work with the family to get the kids there. I mean, but there isn't any credit, so, you know, and I don't, you know, a lot of districts, I mean, the state of Idaho has done a lot of just trying to, absenteeism is a big problem, and so how do you get kids coming, and so lots of districts have gone to, do you give them a remote option, do you, I mean, because it impacts your ADA, but aside from the funding side of it, I mean, if you've missed 50 days of kindergarten, you've missed 10 days of kindergarten, it's hard to come back from that.
Right.
And then if you miss 1st grade, and then there's a percentage of those kids that are struggling to get here, so there's not a lot of teeth at the elementary level because you can't withhold credit.
And a lot of ours are natural consequences that kids fail.
Right, that we don't have.
Yeah.
And I would say middle school's in the same boat until you get to 8th grade and you have a math class.
Except, okay, so maybe it's not credit that we're withholding at the elementary, but we are not advancing them to the next grade. So that's a consequence. And I mean, I would think that that is merited because their testing doesn't support the advancement, not necessarily just they've missed, you know, because if you've got a chronically ill student,
Exactly.
but the parent is working with that student at home, trying to keep the student.
And remember,
up to
elementary is a
as
standards-based report card, so, I mean, if they could show mastery, you're right, like, they should be able to pass.
Correct.
But if they can't,
Correct, they
Right.
shouldn't, because then that just perpetuates the
Right.
problem on down the
Right.
road.
yeah,
Do we do that?
I mean, not consistently. I don't think people feel like they have the teeth to do that.
It used to be, no, we just push the kid through.
I know.
But
We
we've
have started doing that.
tried to say, stop that, because it
Yeah.
doesn't benefit the kid and it does not benefit the teachers.
No,
Well,
I agree.
I just feel like, so this poor child, let's just use a 1st or 2nd grader, you know, they've missed 2 weeks of school, and it's one thing if they're sick, but if it's just like, you know, I only come twice a week, I'm not connected to my friends, I'm missing out on a bunch of stuff, and then when I get there, I'm so lost, so I'm disengaged, so then the teacher is giving up every recess, every lunch, trying to get them to get them caught up so that they can actually participate. And I mean, it's just this ugly cycle, because then they miss the next day, and
Right.
at some point, I mean, the teacher can't reteach all of the lessons that have been missed,
Yeah.
and so this child just continues to get further and further behind. So, you know, they have, like, I know lots of our teachers will send stuff home that doesn't come back, it doesn't come back done, which is why districts have really, like, the research really talks about coming alongside the family, figuring out whatever those obstacles are. But when you can't do that, it's okay if getting to school is problematic, and again, these are little people, they can't drive themselves, so then is there a remote option that it's not that teacher doing it, but it's we have some, you know, we have another something that they can access, I don't know, but that's what other districts have started to do, because
Are they doing that
absenteeism
for-
is a problem.
Do you feel like those districts that are doing that are doing it because it's what's best for the kid, or what's best to get the ADA?
Well, I would say it's everything, it's twofold.
I have a hard time thinking a 3rd grader going online. What are they going to be doing when they're in 9th grade, 10th grade?
Right.
I mean, I can't imagine that.
Well,
I
if
mean, I already
it's-
have a.
But right now they're just not
Mhm.
attending, and so, and you know, so I agree with you. I mean, that's not what I push, but if we're at least getting them, and it's not that the classroom teacher that is currently their classroom teacher is doing it. Like, they have teachers on assignment that they're providing, you know, all they do is a Google Classroom for K through 2, and so then they're connecting the kids there because the kids are not coming to school. And you'd have to have a criteria of, like, it's so excessive, or you go the habitual truancy route. But
We ever
typically
did
what happens
those-
when we do that is they pull their kid out of school before
If we ever did do that to keep the ADA, and if that's what the parent wants, well, I guess I'm going to homeschool my kid or whatever, but they're really in a way doing homeschool through Lakeland, so we're still getting the ADA. It's almost like they would have to do some sort of testing, to be able to re-enter it in person.
Come in.
That'd
When
be
I was
very,
doing
very
it,
difficult.
the state of Idaho, I mean, they have a whole page on trying to address absence. I mean, Josh went to a training on it. Like, it's a problem, and I can't imagine, you know, we're the only state struggling. I mean, I just think since COVID, it's become more prevalent.
For Lakeland, one of the biggest issues, it'd be interesting, and Shannon would be able to speak on this a lot better than I can, but I would really like to know the percentage of kids that have actually broken the 9 days, because I'm guessing it's pretty high. And I don't even want to throw a number out, but I think I'd be kind of surprised. But the issue is we have a lot of students that are meeting the classroom expectations. I mean, we have students that have missed 30 days and they still have A's and B's in certain classes, and a lot of it's because the online our teachers do such a good job.
They are
and it's
so
so
great,
good
yeah.
about the school classroom. There's such great resources, but there is a big part of it that you don't even need to be at school. And if you can put one-on-one together, you're gifted academically. You can do it all remotely.
Well, and that's where the self-directed learner comes in, because
Yeah.
you could go that route.
But it still doesn't address,
But
some of the
elementary
issue.
is-
So I guess like going to this policy, the attendance piece, I mean, it'd just be interesting to know like feedback, like if you have a kid that has 25 absences, they're not a self-directed learner, so that's not an option. But they have B's and C's in their class. Like what's the plan? Like what does the board want to see? What does the DO want to see? Do we give the kid the credit that is able to do the classwork and show the mastery, but they're not meeting the academic or the attendance policy standards that are set forth by the district?
But I feel like those kids that can pass it are probably outliers. Most of the kids are, you feel like they can pass?
Part of it is because we have so much leveling. We've leveled kids. So
I mean, at the elementary, I don't
Yeah.
think I think they struggle. At high school, it might be different, but at elementary, if they're missing that, they're struggling.
I think if we offered some type of virtual option, we should think about putting in there that we need them to come in for benchmarking. Like when we take fall, winter, spring benchmarking, so we can show some evidence of growth. I don't know. Yeah.
And I'm not comfortable putting anything remotely in here when we don't know what remote looks like, or like I certainly don't want to say, oh, we'll do Play-Doh for elementary.
Oh my God.
Absolutely not.
I kind of think, I mean, we have 3 minutes left. I personally would like to do some research and just really get a sense of what are we talking about, like at every elementary school, at the high school and the middle school, at the first semester, first trimester, how many kids were past that 9-day threshold, and honestly bring that to the board, and then really have a discussion of how big of a problem is this for us, and how do we want to respond. I mean,
And Shannon would tell you if she's here, if you're just that 10 absent kid, that's not a lot. That's 1 every other week absent. And that's not for a student that is good with time management and stays on top of things. That's not a lot of days. I think we want to target that 18 to 20 or more
Yeah. I think it'd
range
be
of
interesting to
students.
know how many kids
Yeah.
are past 9. How many kids are past 18? How
Yeah,
many are
yeah.
20?
maybe
How
that
many are
is the
30?
thing, is maybe we have a discussion about changing the number 9. It's weird that you say like 9 isn't a lot, but I think when I was in school, like if you were 9, like, oh man, you're missing school all the time. But maybe we're it's a new day and age.
I could
Yeah.
do, it would take me a little bit, but I could pull some data, and then it's a discussion, because how big of a problem is it, and then maybe we want to tweak what we're doing. I don't know.
I would
What do you
love
think,
to do
Michelle?
that.
I just don't know at each phase how big of a problem it is.
Well, here's the thing, I don't know that the board can tell you all
Mhm.
this,
Yeah.
because you guys are the ones that are in the trenches that understand what's
Exact.
going on with your student body and what you should or shouldn't be able to navigate with them.
Mhm.
I mean, there's law that says you have to do this and you have to do that, but within those boundaries, I mean, to me, the habitual truant is the kids that never show up and they
There's
don't
no
have any
contact home.
rights. Yeah.
That's my big piece. That
Right.
Well, what if
And-
we table this policy just for, and we can, I'll just get a sampling, and then when we bring this policy back up,
Yeah,
we'll have
I
some
like
data
that.
and talk about it.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you that, the buildings can, get after it to kind of spread awareness, have attendance campaigns, but it is nice to have policy for backing for
Right.
us to,
Well, and there is a significant difference between a truant in elementary and a truant in
yeah,
secondary.
yeah.
And I know we did try to sort of differentiate that,
Right.
but we do have
It's
an
not
issue at
easy.
elementary where kids are missing an abundant amount of
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
And the principals are like,
Yeah.
how do we navigate this? And then the policy wasn't crystal clear.
And at our
So-
level, you get the kid that's 17 and 18 where habitual truancy isn't in effect.
Right. So, it's
It's-
one policy that needs to balance two
Mhm.
different
Yeah.
areas.
This is an important conversation. I
Yeah,
do
this
think.
is a big
It's-
one. We can stop.
So-
Oh, yeah, let's stop recording.
When she does that,